hello everyone. Welcome to today's session. This is launching our Send gathering, which is taking place every day this week, which is a very exciting week for us at NIMAS. I'm really delighted to have the panel with us this afternoon with some fantastic folks. We are going to be exploring the herd model of inclusion. Just before I hand over to Siggy, who will be chairing the event, I must draw your attention to the closed captions that you can access via the CC icon at the bottom of your screen. I'd also like to remind you we'll be recording the session to share on our Send Network page, so do turn off your camera if you don't want to be filmed. So just to hand over to Siggy now, I'll just remind you as well that we are having a continuation of discussion at 3:30 with our positivity drop-in sessions. So you should have the link for that already, but we can share the chat again if you need it. So over to Siggy.
Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Siggy Patchitt, and I'm a white man. My pronouns are he and his, and I've got a hat on, I'm wearing glasses, and I'm trying hard to grow a beard. It's debatable as to whether that's working or not, but we'll see. I work at Bristol Beacon, which you might know is the organisation in Bristol who used to be known as Colston Hall, and we changed our name last year because we felt that we wanted to be an organisation that was welcoming of everybody, and Colston was a slave trader, and so that was obviously a bit of an issue in a town that's quite diverse in its demographics. So my job at Bristol Beacon is has started to involve a lot of work across the organisation, helping to project manage our transformation, which is really everything that we're doing between now and when we reopen our fully rebuilt auditorium in 2022-23. And all the things that have to change between now and then. So all of our IT, all of our culture, all of our processes, the building itself, which has really given me an insight into change. And we've been talking a bit about change before everybody joined us for this meeting. It's a very relevant topic, and I think the pandemic has made us all very mindful of how fragile things are, and for some of us how privileged we are. And it's amazing that the rate of change across all different areas of life. Some people are speculating that we've advanced 10, 15 years in terms of things like how we manage our finance and how we think of mental health, and how for most, but not all, but most people, geography and commuting is now not a factor in our professional lives. So there's lots of things that have changed. And although the situation we're in is awful and scary, I think we've got an opportunity to step out of it in the right direction. And so it's been great over the last few years to work with the Alliance for Musically Inclusive England to develop the herd model of inclusion. And if you know of this, you might be using it yourself. For us at Bristol Beacon, we use it as a series of questions that we use to challenge ourselves against each element. So H stands for holistic, and we ask, are we considering the social and emotional benefits of music? For E, for equitable, we're asking ourselves, are we directing our resources at those that need them the most? A, for authentic, we are asking, is the work developed in partnership with the people it's for? And R is for relevant, do the people we work with reflect our diverse society? And finally, D is for diverse, do we value all genres, styles and techniques equally? And if you ask yourselves these questions now and the answer is yes, then I'd challenge you to prove it, to demonstrate it, show me how it is yes. If your answer is no, then I challenge you to do something to change so that you can answer it as yes. I think that's a journey that we're all on, and I don't think we'll ever get to the end of it. So for this session, I'm going to introduce the, well, let the panelists introduce themselves in a second. And I think we're going to spend a bit of time looking at some of those elements and what they mean to the panel, but also I think it'd be nice to involve the people that have joined us if you want to do that. But I'd also challenge you for the rest of the week and for the rest of the day to to develop your own understanding of how those elements affect your work and share what you've learned with each other, both successes and failures, and try and imagine what things look and feel like in a reality where you can confidently answer yes to those questions, and then think what's the me-shaped change that needs to happen to make that a reality. And once you start to define that, you can start to help others define it for themselves, and then begin to plan how you get from now to that new reality. And that's when things can start to really snowball. So I'm going to hand over to the three absolute legends that we've got joining us for today. Very, very quickly, they are Kathryn Sturman, Rose Kent, and Sarah Fisher. Guys, do you want to maybe introduce yourselves in alphabetical order? Maybe Kathryn first.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Kathryn. I'm a freelance musician and I co-direct a small charity in Leeds called Made with Music. I work with lots of different people through Made with Music, and I've previously worked for lots of different organisations where I've luckily got to meet Rose and Sarah before. So I'm looking forward to having a chat with them today.
Thanks. What's next? Q-R-S. Sarah. No, Rose. Sorry.
That's good. Oh, it's lovely when someone else gets I always get my alphabets and my numbers muddled up in my dyslexic way, but so that's brilliant. Thank you, Siggy. Yes, lovely to see you too, Kathryn, in different guise. Kathryn was our lead officer at one point at Youth Music, which was always nice. It was, and she gave us lots of money, so that was always good. Well, not she personally, but allowed that to happen. So yes, Rose Kent. So I am the creative director at Accessible Arts and Media. Job I've done for many years, started off as a young sort of community musician all those sort of 30 odd years ago, and still doing similar stuff now. And for me, what's been absolutely wonderful and lovely to come along to this is, so the herd principles are sort of quite a new thing, but actually to us, they've been part of our DNA as an organisation. And my experience as a facilitator, consultant, leader, you know, volunteer, whatever it is I'm doing, it's always been inherent. And what's good to me is the way that it's now being taken a bit more seriously, I think, and not necessarily in a way that is feels like we're jumping through hoops, in a way that we're part of a journey. And what's lovely, I've been a little bit on a backseat, although we've been one of the NIMAS partners for many years. Last couple of years, we haven't been able to be as much an integral part. And it's, you know, Sarah, really interesting to see how we as Accessible Arts were absolutely crucial to the voice, user voice and inclusion at the start of NIMAS. And to now come back in and see where it's moved on. Actually, I feel really proud. It's really nice. So I think that's enough from me. As an organisation, we're all about enabling and empowering and about people's aspirations and being able to use music and creativity in ways that actually enables them to be more included and a more visible part of society, and understanding their role in it and seeing where they fit. So that's me.
Thanks, Rose. Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a percussionist and pianist, community musician. I live in Gateshead. I moved from Bedfordshire up here 9 years ago to study community music. I graduated in 2015 and started my career as a freelance musician. I teach all ages and abilities, and I have cerebral palsy, so my speech and left side is dodgy a bit, but I use my experience with my CP to teach others and to be as inclusive as I can and not allow my disabilities to cause a hindrance to me or participants at these sessions with. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Sarah. Be nice to hear like who else we've got here, like who you are, where you come from. Does everyone want to introduce themselves briefly? Shall I say who to make it easier for people to? Katie, do you want to introduce yourself, or just wave, say hi?
I think there are two Katies.
Oh yes.
Here I am. I'm Katie. I've just started as the send lead for Self, a children's charity. We're based in Skipton, and we have a couple of sessions, a family music session, an iMuse session. And I saw this and I thought there might be something I could get from this. So here I am.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. How about the other Katie? Katie Ryder.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm actually the captioner for this meeting. So
You are indeed. Well, you're also extremely welcome.
thank you.
And then we have the two NIMAS reps.
Yeah, so I'm Sarah. I'm the director of NIMAS. I have been in post coming up for 3 years now.
And I'm Grace. I'm the Programme and Networks Manager at NIMAS, and I've been in post for 3 years as well, which is exciting.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. That was really nice to hear who we've got. I thought what would be nice is, I know the panel have been thinking about this beforehand, but it'd be nice to kind of open this out for a sort of broader discussion if you guys feel like chipping in, or it's up to you. But we were going to look at maybe one of the elements of the herd model that that people feel they've got some experience of, and how they've developed their work and their practice and themselves to improve how they do that element. So I thought I'd just sort of maybe start with the panel and see what comes out of that. After that, we can have a discussion about maybe where some of the elements of herd haven't been done well and what that might look like, and some of the learning that's involved. And then maybe finally we can sort of pick something to go away with, like a challenge or something to specifically think about on the back of this. So kicking off with like one of the elements of herd which you've developed and changed your own practice around. Maybe Kathryn, you want to start off with that?
Yeah, sure. I was going to talk a bit about authenticity and authentic, which is the A in the herd model. I was going to say that I think it's something that I've learned more and more about. And as Siggy said at the start, and Rose said, you're always going to be learning, aren't you? It's never going to be something that you reach, I don't think. And I think that's the really exciting thing about the job, is that you're always meeting new people to work with and learn from. And so you can always be changing and developing, which is really exciting. So I think one of the key skills that I've developed that helps with developing an authentic practice is communication skills. So I've kind of learnt Makaton signing, basic BSL, how different people use switches to communicate and contribute to discussions, how to kind of wait a certain amount of time to allow for responses, how to produce information in a variety of formats, all these different ways that just build communication and trust between you and other people that you're working with. And I think that's really key to developing an authentic practice, being able to communicate with everyone that you're working with. It's taken a lot of time, and I don't think that anything comes very quickly. And I also have challenges in that I'm visually impaired, so I can't always see what people are signing back or how they're communicating back to me, but I don't think that's a reason that I shouldn't learn different ways of communication in the hope that people involve me in their communication too. So it's kind of a two-way process, and learning with all the different groups and all the different people that you're working with all the time. I find kind of body language and slight changes of expression really hard to read, particularly on Zoom. I literally cannot see anything. So it's been a real challenge over the last year. But I do think that still little bits of communication and little ways of making things accessible to people really make a big difference in terms of making an authentic practice and developing work with people, because they know that you can communicate with them, and I know that they can communicate with me. So I think that it kind of takes a lot of effort to build an authentic practice, and to build it into organisational values. I think it gets more difficult over time. I think back to when we just started Made with Music, and I'd just had a baby. I'd just been made redundant from the role that Rose was talking about. I'd just lost loads of my sight, had massive changes in my sight. So I was really struggling and needed a bit of support. And I found a kind of friend who was going to support me to develop sessions. And we developed them with all of our friends and with another group for parents of disabled children under 5 who really wanted music to happen. So at that stage, it was kind of easy as to be authentic, right? Some people had asked us to do a music session, some other people had asked us to do a music session, we knew them all. And as we've kind of grown and developed, it's been much more of a challenge to kind of keep people engaged and keep that dialogue going. And it's something that we always try and think back to, like think back to that first moment and how wonderful it was to kind of be learning together with this other organisation. And now 8 years on, we still work with them. We've learnt so much more about inclusive practice and how to involve everyone through working with them and through learning together. And they've learned a lot more about music and the benefits that it can have to their organisation. And I feel like that was kind of one true partnership that we try and replicate in everything else that we do. But it obviously gets harder and harder as you get bigger, because you can't really maintain those really close relationships with every single person that you meet, and you want to know about every single person that you meet, because that's why we do our job. So I think that as it's gone on, we've tried to find kind of little ways of involving people, and always developing the start with someone else. Always developing the start of the project, the idea always comes with another group, in partnership with another group that's maybe specialist in something else, maybe wants music to come in, maybe it's an idea from a parent where they just say, please can we have gigs that our children can come to, where they feel welcome and included and it's equitable for everyone to attend. So we say, yes, okay, let's put on those gigs. And then we'll get a family group together, a family support group, who advise us on all of the things that we do going forward. It's not the same relationship as that very first relationship that we really nurtured, but it is still really valid and really, really worthwhile. And I think that as long as we're still checking in with everyone, making sure that what we're still providing is what they still want, and finding out bits of information about every single person that comes through our charity's work, making sure things are personalised, making sure we get feedback from everyone in whatever way we can, and making sure that everyone has the opportunity to get involved in any way, then our practice will hopefully stay as authentic as it was in those first tiny steps when we worked really closely with those two organisations. So communication basically, and looking back to first steps is really the key thing, I think.
I think for that's a nice way of understanding. So when you start small, it is easy to be authentic. It's easy to be participant led, because you were the authentic voice of the participants, because that was the need for it. But as you grow, the importance of good communication and relationship building is right at the center of making sure you know whether or not what you're doing is still relevant and authentic. So yeah, that's something I can relate to as well. Rose, do you want to?
Yeah, can I come in on a couple of things?
Of course,
is that
yeah,
all right?
yeah, please.
I think quite, just to say, I think you can, Kathryn. So us as an organisation have been doing it for 30 years. I think we are still doing that. We are person-centred, and the way we can manage it, you're absolutely right, in terms of linking the impact measurement into your project planning. But actually for us, I think we still are, because we spend the time. Consultation is sort of the bedrock of what we do, to find that, make sure that we're still meeting the need, but also that's what the people still want. And so so I do see our work continuing, and we're a much bigger, sort of a bigger outfit than you, but still small, that I do think that's still manageable. Yes, it can sometimes be a bit of a drain on your capacity, but actually if you build that into your delivery model, then it happens as a matter of course. Yeah. And so I think it's a matter of not making an excuse for yourself. And I'm not saying you're making an excuse for yourself at all. Don't get me wrong. Don't make excuses to reason why you can't do something, but just consultate. It's like, and even like, I suppose where our team are very good is that we talk through things. Yeah. And whether that's you with your colleagues, it's like looking, and we look at all the different individuals. Are we meeting their needs? Has a bit of feedback come in from a parent that says we have to reassess what we thought about that young person? And we'll come back to that later, because that's relevant to what's maybe not working in a sense. But also I think in terms of communication, absolutely, total communication is really important, tailor it to the person. But also we use, other people know, something called intensive interaction, which is a sort of pre-language development. So for people who have, especially with learning disabilities, who are still at under 6 months in terms of their development, their cognitive development, and will never get beyond that. But that is, and the reason that's so good about being authentic is that what you're doing with that young person is you're stripping away any requirement from them to interact in a certain way. We play, we look at what they're doing, we pick up on what they're showing us and how they're communicating, and we respond in a way that will elicit another response from them. And that's called intensive interaction, because it's about intensifying the interaction that they have. And it's such good fun. And actually, in terms of being authentic, that we see incredible things. We're always constantly blown away with what someone can do that we've not expected. So I think there's lots of really good stuff happening, but don't ever say no, never. It's about constantly, refreshing it and thinking about what you're doing and seeing if it's still working. But that's my little pennyworth in there.
That's really interesting. You said something about impact measurement, and I think one thing that I'm really interested in at the moment is the democratization of evaluation, and how is what you're measuring what's valuable to the person that's doing the activity. So it's all very well for us to go along and say, this is what we're looking at that will tell us if it's successful, but the people involved might be like, well, that's nothing, that doesn't mean anything to me. For me, it's all about somewhere to go on a Saturday. It's not about how good I am at music. So it's interesting how that authenticity actually goes through to every single facet of the work. Sarah, do you want to give some of your insight into some of this?
Yeah, so I chose the E, the concert, so yeah, the E.
Equitable.
That, yeah. So I've played music since a kid, and it's been part of my life for years, and as a teenager, I became interested in leading workshops as I attended a Saturday morning class where a leader taught me and others, which started my interest in leading, and so went on to university at 18. But the way that I started to develop my leadership was that you had to say everything to lead a session. because that was what I saw and knew. So due to my speech, which used to be a lot worse than this, I found it really hard to lead productive sessions, and so I saw the barriers more than my ability. And I didn't know that you don't have to say a lot to lead. So it wasn't that I needed figure cool resources, but confidence and relief to do this, and to know that it's okay that this speech doesn't always work, because there's other ways to overcome the barriers that I face and that others may face too. And so I was able to see my needs and ability, and then be seen as on par with my peers at uni, who none of them had disabilities, but we were all on the same level, and each person had their own way to lead. But it's about understanding the challenges and building the relationship with others around you to know how to adapt and lead sessions. Today I'm happy to go into a session and not say anything and use my body as the main communicator and music as my voice.
That's really cool. As you were saying that, I remembered so many crap music lessons where people were just talking at me the whole time. And also it reminded me as well, you guys have got Becky Owen involved in this later on. I went to a session she ran about 10 years ago where the whole session was just her kind of playing and singing and not explaining anything. And it was a really great insight into how too many words can get in the way of great musical experiences often. So that's interesting.
If we're there to teach music, use music to teach, that don't chat about it, just do it.
Yeah.
And use it to do it.
Absolutely. Does anybody want to chip in, respond to that? Great. Okay. Katie Hogarth, do you have any anything you want to share or talk about? You don't have to, but if you do, you can.
No, I think it's been beneficial what I've heard so far. I don't know what I'd chip in with now though.
Oh, that's all good. Don't worry. If you do think of anything, just stick your hand up and go for it. Maybe we should look at maybe some examples that people have been thinking of where something hasn't been done quite so well, and maybe what the impact of that is. Maybe that's something you've done. I mean, I know I've been in lots of situations where I've reflected later, sometimes years later, that was a pretty terrible way to run a workshop or to think I knew what I was talking about. I will just share with you one very funny example. At primary school, year 6 students I've been working with in an after school club years ago, and their parents came in to hear the song that they'd written, and we all got lined up, and I introduced it, and I've got this on camera because I was filming it. I said, here's a song that these guys all wrote. And then one of the girls went, no, you wrote it. You just told us what to do. And I was like, oh, it's not quite that, but it's pretty much that. Yeah, they did some words. I stitched it all together, but I obviously did too much. And that stuck with me. And after that, I was very, very careful to be led by the people that were in the room. I'm sure we've all got stories like that. I know other colleagues have shared things like that with me that are equally as valuable when you reflect on them. So maybe if we go around the panel now to see if anyone's got any particular examples from the herd model. In that example, I guess I was definitely not being authentic. It was me being able to write a song easily. What rhymes with school? Cool, great, that'll do. We'll stick. How about this line? Is that good? That works, doesn't it? Yeah. Rubbish. Anyway, over to you. Anybody, go for it.
So shall I chip in?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's all relative, Siggy. It's all
sure.
Absolutely relative. And I think sometimes it's that thing of, and I suppose it comes down to that thing of co-production, actually.
Yeah.
It's how are we actually co-producing? If it's a matter of taking it to the book, and with some groups, it's harder than others. So I think with mainstream groups, actually, you've got some barriers automatically where those young people will have made some assumptions. When we're working with more profoundly disabled groups, it's about a much more, it has to be something where you're picking up on stuff through just using your eyes and your ears and just seeing what happens and then creating something out of that. So I do think it is all relative. But my challenge, well, not my challenge, but the thing that I suppose at the moment is the bit that gives me cause for concern, but also an area I really want to work on. The work we do often involves support workers, carers, family members, that some of our, unless it's our mental health prone, but here I'm thinking about our work with young people with disabilities. And those support workers or carers or parents come in, I call them the gatekeepers. The reason I call them the gatekeepers is that they come with a perceived idea of what that young person can and can't do. And it's, for us, it's about that sometimes really not helpful. It comes from a place of caring and really because they know and love that person, but it's often not really helpful. And it will mean they're holding the young people back. So we've got loads of examples. So, you know, young man, actually the iMuse project, I don't think it was yours, and it's lovely to see you there from Selfa, Katie, because I know we're coming into you in a bit, aren't we? But the project we've been doing through our NIMAS programme, and this was with Rydale Special Families, a young man who was absolutely wedded to a laminate that he had, that was his comforter. So laminated piece of paper, you know, get the idea. And the support worker said, no, that's his comfort. You won't get that off him. 10 minutes into the iMuse room, and iMuse, for any of you who don't know, it's an interactive multi-sensory program. And he was already starting to interact with the facilitator. And over 10, 15 minutes, he put it down, he picked it up again. But over time, over weeks, he'd stopped using that, absolutely stopped using that. And the support worker who said afterwards, he said, oh my God, I would never have expected that. He's not using his comforter. That's incredible. And another parent, actually just a couple of weeks back, we're doing all our delivery on Zoom. And this young girl, she's got quite profound physical, but also some learning disabilities. And she's 21 years old, and her parents said, she's never going to blow, can't blow, never been able to blow. We were doing a holiday club. We sent out some resources, including a kazoo. And so mum says, she's not going to do that. She can't blow. She's never been able to blow for 21 years. You're not going to make her. Hannah, who's our facilitator, explained, you don't blow, you sing into it. And like that, she was right on it. And she sang into it and she was away. And her mum said afterwards, oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, I can't believe it. That was absolutely amazing. And I suppose for me, the thing is about who are those gatekeepers? Sometimes they're us as the leaders. Sometimes they are because we've made an assumption about a person that actually doesn't allow them to develop the skills in a natural way through play and through experimentation. So it's about, yeah, so for me, it's about that. That's a really important thing, is to keep the gatekeepers at bay, including yourselves. Don't make assumptions and really wait and listen and see what's going to happen. And then as it happens, celebrate it. Think of it, right, brilliant, we've got it. We've got you. Caught you.
I find often that, well, I think that we don't spend enough time developing or learning and understanding people's musical identities. We look at their musical skills and we look at their social skills and their personal skills, but we don't start by figuring out who you are as a musical entity. What's your experience? What are you interested in? And you could, if you spend most of your time on that, everything that happens subsequently is authentic and is them driven and is relevant. And I think lots of that is wasted because you can't measure it and mark it. So yeah, that is important. Sarah, do you want to maybe?
Yeah, it kind of ties in to one experience that I had. So I used to lead a project co-lead group, and I had a 2-hour session in the morning of the day that I led on my own with teenagers who had various disabilities, and 90% of them had speech impediments. Now, I'm happy to be a role model or whatever to show these kids that it's okay to have a speech impediment. You can achieve a career. But I was a lead practitioner, and one of the main activities of the project was songwriting. Now, I don't mind doing that with another practitioner, but I don't sing. And it really affects my anxiety, especially when you had aims and a show at the end that you had to share. And normally I don't really notice my speech impediment, but when you're surrounded by speech challenges, all you can see and hear is speech challenges, because if you hear it, you're aware of it, and so brain tomorrow means that I then stutter, they stutter, everybody stutters, and the music disappears because we're all trying to cope with our speech. And I'd rather they say, are you care to have 90% who have speech impediments, the other 10 non-verbal, and these songwriting is wrong. Yeah, okay. And it was really hard to produce a piece productively to share. But then in the afternoon, we one group, so 20-ish people, and we did a lot of songwriting. And again, like those that had speech impediments or not a loud voice weren't heard. They were overshadowed by those that were really into songwriting. So a lot of the time they just sat there for 30 minutes while the others wrote a piece. I'd rather they have instruments to hand and to join in whilst writing a piece. One session that I did was them singing, and I joined in on marimba to be in the session, and the practitioner told me to stop playing. We are singing. So then I had to sit there for 30 minutes, surrounded by a room where everybody else was singing, and I was excluded, which wasn't fun. But somehow participants are non-verbal, so they too just sat there the whole session, and then in the performance they had to they made us go on stage, and they just ended up standing on the stage, because that's inclusive.
It's getting worse and worse as you're explaining what's going on. It's like, I can't believe, I was like, that's bad. Oh, that's terrible. You know,
Absolutely.
that's victimization. I mean, it's really bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, you need to understand that even if they don't have a voice, they have a voice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
opinion, and it's about finding a way for them to have a voice in whatever way they want, and their ownership, and not to tell them what they have to do.
The thing that gets me annoyed is that music is one of the most fluid and well, it is so flexible and fluid. It molds to anything. But people who are in control of an environment won't let that happen often, because they feel it can be a bit chaotic or out of control. And music's not about that. You know, it's about expression and communication, and whatever works works. So that's a really interesting insight, Sarah. Thanks for sharing that. Kathryn, do you want to maybe chip in? We've got sort of 10 minutes left, so maybe we can do this bit, and then if there's time later, we can just have a roundup or something. But yeah, go for it.
Sure. Well, I was thinking of something while you were saying that, that kind of links, that is to do with kind of equity in the workplace, really, because I don't think we're quite there yet. Because I feel like if someone had consulted with you and worked with you to design that project, that you could have made a great project, right, for everyone involved and for yourself, and avoided that being left out. And I think often that's forgotten. And I think one of the challenges that I've had is feeling like I've been parachuted in as a token disabled person, even though maybe my experience is totally irrelevant to the project, or or something like that. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, in that I just think you've got to be aware of what people's skills are. You can't, it's the same as everything. You can't do anything quickly. You've got to work with people. You've got to have an authentic reason for involving that person in your project. And you've got to support them properly as well to be able to work in the way that they want to be able to work. And you would do it for any practitioner. You wouldn't just say, oh, you're a classical violinist, please come and teach hip hop to this group of kids, would you? So it's kind of just knowing what people's skills and interests are. And involving them in that decision. And I think we're just not quite there with equity in the workplace, and it's how to include people in your teams in an authentic way, really, and not make them feel like they're just there to be a token disabled person. They're there to contribute. They're there because their skills are really valuable. They're there for all those reasons. And I think, you know, I've tried, there's been a lot of work around access riders and things, which is a document that you would produce with things that will help you to be able to work. And I've kind of like sat down to write one about 200 times, but I get stuck because one time I said to someone, oh, I've been thinking of doing this, what do you think? And they worked for this organization. They said, wow, if everyone sent them to us, gosh, we'd have just a list of demands and we'd never get anything done. And to me, that just totally missed the point, because it was supposed to be tiny things that I needed that would mean that I could do my job the same as everyone else, you know. But it's just stuck with me. So it's made me think, oh gosh, can I send that to anyone? It's not commonplace still, is it? It's not widely accepted that people might need different things in order to do their job to the best of their ability. And yeah, I think I'm very lucky in that we set up an organization, but it was because of my, you know, what I was going through in life at that moment meant that I needed someone to work with. So now we always work in pairs, and every single other person that's worked for our organization has said how valuable that is and how it's boosted their mental health and it's boosted their physical health working with another practitioner. But it shouldn't just be my organization because I needed that. It needs to be every organization, every place that I could potentially work as a freelancer could, you know, bear little things in mind that would mean that I would be working at the same level as everyone else. So I think that kind of, yeah, links back to that story, really.
What concerns me? Oh, sorry, do you want to come in?
I was just going to say, I've been thinking about diversity in the context of this model, and actually I feel that relates to what you were talking about there, Kathryn, and just the journey that we're on as an organisation, and, you know, lots of organisations are on, because we all need to get better at it. And thinking about the time you need to devote to that, and also shifting timelines. Recently, we've been developing a new online resource, and we had a conversation at some point and thought, actually, is this fit for purpose? Is it diverse enough? No, it's not. So we need to go back, dismantle what we've got, and see how we can make it more diverse. That's going to shift our timeline on it, but it's, you know, weighing up the priorities of the need for the resource, and actually if the way we're creating it is the right way to create it.
Yeah, Sarah, do you want to?
I think it's really important that conversations start before the session even goes ahead. Like, a place of work, if you get ill, you have to let them know. The only way to let them know was to phone in and leave a message. 7 years ago, I was too scared to use a phone, so I would go in ill because I didn't know how else to do it. And when group said, when you arrive, just phone me. Like, it's about understanding the needs before you need to address them. So you have to start the conversation and build that relationship as early as you can so that everybody's needs are met.
I think it's definitely that is right, but I think it also it goes one step further, is you need to somehow communicate that your culture is one that you're open to people to share, because working in a busy concert venue, you can't possibly go up to everybody and ask them what their individual needs are, but you should do whatever you can to make everyone feel like they can come in and say, just to let you know, this is what. And often people don't voluntarily share their different support needs or access needs because they don't want to be singled out or they don't want to be looked at in a different way. And Kathryn, when you were talking about the access rider, you should see some famous people's non-access riders. It's just ridiculous, and that is that's not necessary at all. It's just an ego exercise. But I saw Jess Tom's access rider for an event that we did with Jess Tom, the Tourette's hero, a few years back. The most comprehensive, clear, assertive, this is what I need, and this is why I'll need this, and I'll need this. So if anyone needs any guide on access riders, hers was incredible. And it made me feel absolutely confident that she was going to have a great experience. I didn't need to second guess anything. It was there in black and white. So, and I just wanted to sort of touch on what you were talking as well, Kathryn, about tokenism. From a non-disabled white male point of view, it's a scary subject. And I don't think that people are confident enough to address it and discuss it and figure out what they feel it is. The bottom line is, if you're good enough to do a job, that's fine. If you're brought in to do a job and you're not good enough, but you're brought in because of something else, that's tokenism. But for me, the grey area is the difference in aspiration because of the lack of a representation of disabled people in the arts. We need to do something more proactive to break that cycle. And so that's about equity. That's about the amount of support we give to people who have the potential and the commitment and the interest to get them to a point where they are skilled enough to be doing those things, because your lived experience is an asset to you in terms of bringing a diverse perspective. It is everybody's lived experience is valuable. So, but I do think that non-disabled people need a lot of support to stop feeling vulnerable and guilty about, I don't want to address, I don't know, well, we don't know, that's just not. It's a really big issue. Same with everything that's every protected characteristic, I'd say.
But I also think it's about, you're right, it's about not feeling guilty about, but I also think it's about the confidence to be able to say, actually, I know what, I can feel comfortable with this because I know I can do it. And I think confidence is a huge thing that a lot of organizations, so, as an organization, we do that. We take on volunteers, and over the years, people with mental health conditions or whatever, but have actually given them something to just start turning things around by giving them a positive activity. But I think organizations need the same thing. It's like a drip, don't they? Which is about saying, this does work, it's okay. Don't worry, don't overthink it. I'm just a human being. I might have a disability, or I might be black, or I might be gay, or whatever. Doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. The fact is, and your point's absolutely right, Siggy, it's about the job. Needs to be a job. If you can do the job, it doesn't matter. But like, people need to feel they can do that, but also the organizations need to feel that it's something that's not as scary as they think it is.
Yeah.
And that's the bit about breaking down that barrier. And that's about things of talking the open conversation and about being, but also being challenging, but not to actually make people feel bad about that. It's like challenging what we're thinking about stuff, but also saying it's okay. It's okay to feel that you're wrong sometimes. That's fine. We're not all the experts. We get it wrong sometimes, but we've got belief and a moral that says we want to make it better. And it's more than a moral. It's a passion about what we do. We love it. It's like we see change happen through music. That's what's important. The other bits are about the vehicle by which we do it, and try not to tie ourselves up in the process.
Yeah, I mean, we all want, well, I think what we're all interested in, inclusion, and I would say it's all about, it's just about a modernization process. You know, there's all these old, out of date ways of working and mindsets that we are looking to bring up to date. And what's, you know, how would you design the world if you didn't know whether you were going to be born male, female, gay, straight, black, white, disabled? You would design the world in a way that was fair for everybody. So, and we could probably envisage that together, but getting from now to there, that's the challenge. And those steps along the way for people that are more reluctant or less open or less, have less of an appetite, that's the key. So, so much more we could go into and talk about, but we have run out of time, unfortunately. That's right, isn't it, Grace? That's time. I just want to thank everybody for coming along. I by no means am satisfied with that discussion. It's just too short and it needs to carry on for a long time. It's lovely to see you again, Kathryn and Sarah, and really nice to meet you for the first time, Rose. And thank you to Katie for doing the captioning, and for the guys for organising it, and for Katie for being here. I know she's gone, but it was nice to have her along. Yeah, so thanks. Very, very valuable experience for me.